Hey guys, it's Rush G, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Street Fighter, particularly in the form of Arcade Edition. In this video I'll be covering Ken's V-Trigger 2, we'll be looking at how to use it optimally, how to juggle, how to combo, and anything else you need to be aware of. Just to get started and give you a bit of background, his V-Trigger is a 2-bar V-Trigger, it's 9-frame startup, it is unsafe on block, it has 3 different versions depending on how many times you mash punch after activating. You can juggle, you can combo after it, but please be aware that the damage on it isn't great if you do long combos and then cancel the V-Trigger. The reason for that is because of the scaling they've added to V-Trigger cancellations in Arcade Edition. So that's a big nerf across the board. It's not specific just to Shinryuken, it's not specific just to Ken, it's across the board. So let's go straight in and have a look at what this V-Trigger is all about. So guys, before we start, I just wanted to say that I wanted to get this video out earlier on in the week, but I just haven't had a chance due to time restraints, but we'll give it a good shot. I mean, I've had a little look into V-Trigger 2. I haven't been looking at combos specifically. I don't think that's the main focus of this V-Trigger. So I've been looking at application and the ways you want to use it in matches, and I already have a lot of matches that I plan to use it in, if I'm completely honest. So we mentioned before it's a 2-bar V-Trigger and it has 3 versions, so we'll look at the damage and the 3 versions and I'll explain the juggles, the O-key and so forth. So once you've got your 2 stocks ready, I should mention that Ken builds stock very quickly in Street Fighter 5. So you want to do your cancels into step kick when you can, which we can mention that later on as well. But let's look at the move itself. So normal one, just no mash at all. 6 hits, 140 damage. The medium one, 170, and I think it's 12 hits. You can see there, 170, 12 hits, and the full version, full fat, is 200 damage and 16 hits. Now there's very important things you need to be aware of this when you cancel. I mean, if you want to get max damage out of this, you want to do a raw activation, because I mentioned scaling earlier on. If I cancel normal into V-Trigger, you'll see it, instead of it going down to 80% like it did in the previous 2 seasons, it goes down to 70%. So your second attack after you activate goes down to 70% if it's a 1 hit into activation. You can see there, so look at the damage. So the damage scaling is now 70% on the second move, because well, it's technically the third, because V-Trigger is, the activation is classed as an attack, and then the attack afterwards is down to 70%. So you can see the scaling has a big factor across the board in Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition. Now this is something you have to be aware of when using this V-Trigger. If you want to get max damage out of this, you've got to think real hard how and where you want to use it. We'll talk about that a little later, but for now we're going to look at the initial, or the basic juggle. So we'll crack on with that, but look at the juggles. So guys, Ken's V-Trigger 2, it's very different to his V-Trigger 1. I don't want to say it's worse than V-Trigger 1, it's very different, and I think situations where you will want V-Trigger 2, certain matchups you will want V-Trigger 2. That's something I'll touch on a little later, well, towards the end of the video. But V-Trigger 2, as I mentioned, has 3 versions. The lighter version, or the no mash version, does 140 damage and it's 6 hit. See there. The sort of medium version does 170 and 12 hits. And the full fat version does 200 and it does 200 damage and is 16 hit. Now what you need to be aware of is how many times can you use the Shinryuken when you activate. Well, the light version you can use 3 times if you use 3 light versions. Get it once, you can see your gauge is fully stocked pretty much, so you can, it's depleted, you can still get 2 more. If you go for a medium one initially, you can only get a light one after that and the bar's done. If you go for the full fat version, your bar is completely spent, it's gone. You get no more Shinryuken until you've refilled the gauge. It's worth mentioning that you will get V meter very quickly. With Ken in general, gets V meter very quickly through crush counters and step kicks. So you'll get V trigger 2 twice per match without a doubt. I've never managed to get 3 as of yet. I don't think you really get 2-bar V triggers 3 times, but it probably can happen if you use a lot of if you land a lot of crush counters and step kicks. But let's call it 2. You're getting it twice, so you can mix it up. And this is the key thing with this V trigger. You've got to think how to use it. And the way I think to use it is earlier. If you get it early on, and say the opponent's got half health, look at using the lighter versions first as combo extensions and like quick reaction anti-airs and whiff punishes. If they're near death, then you want to go for the full fat version, and really you want to juggle into CA for that finisher. You've got to really think about your meter with V trigger 2, and I think that's the key thing. It can be very, very good. The juggles, which we just touched on now, I haven't looked at max damage. I don't think max damage is really where this V trigger's at. I mean, a lot of the videos I've seen already are jumping heavy punch, crouching heavy punch DP. Very unrealistic in a normal matchup. So I've been looking at more application and sort of where it sits for particular matchups. Juggles, if you go for a full fat version, you'll always get CA at the end of it. You'll get 500 damage plus. You'll always get that CA. You won't get EX Tatsu, I don't think, without them being in a juggle state already. So if you notice, Shinryuken off the ground into full fat, you won't allow for EX Tatsu. Go to the corner. Oh, sorry, before I jump the gun a little bit, you won't get heavy punch DP or EX TP either. That doesn't work, and EX TP doesn't work. However, corner, get light punch DP, get heavy punch DP, EX TP, and I think you may get EX Tatsu, I'm not sure. No, I think it's a little too slow. Okay, so you can cancel that in the corner into CA if you wanted to. So I think heavy punch DP 2 hits would be optimal, but the easier cancel would be off of medium punch DP. But I need to test this, but you can do it anyway. So that works. If you want to get the heavy punch DP mid-screen, and if you want to get the EX Tatsu, they've got to be in a juggle state to begin with. So a good example is any target combo to heavy punch DP, then Shinryuken. So target combo, Line Breaker or Chin Buster into heavy punch DP cancel, full fat will give you EX Tatsu every time. But look at the scaling, the EX Tatsu did 40% its normal damage. You didn't even get 300 damage there in total. So this is what I'm saying, you've got to think about how you use it. I probably wouldn't use it for things like that. It looks good, it's not optimal. Let me just check if you can get this, I'm not sure. Ah yeah, sorry. You can get heavy punch DP and EX TP like that as well. So Chin Buster, heavy punch DP, 1 hit. V trigger, you can juggle as well there. Lion Breaker, I don't think it works. Let's try. Yeah. So we can touch on why that doesn't work in the next section. I think that's another point actually. And if you use DP, medium punch DP into V trigger 2, if I set into neutral jump, you can get EX Tatsu like that as well. It does work. It's the timing you've got to master. It's not always the case, but you can get it. There you go. So you can do crosscut, medium punch DP into V trigger 2, full fat version, and then EX Tatsu. But it will whiff if you don't judge the juggle too well. It's something that I haven't mastered yet, but the way to tell, especially on training stages, look how high Ryu goes in the air. If you see quite a lot of the ceiling, Don't. See that? I knew that wasn't going to juggle. You've got to go a little higher than that. Yeah, I haven't mastered it yet, but I'll explain a little later as to how to tell if you can get certain juggles afterwards. I think that's really it. I mentioned Melee Punch DP into V-Trigger 2. The reason I mentioned that, and I'm sure you guys already know, it doesn't have very good invincibility on startup. So if you do Raw as a Whiff Punish, or if you do it as an anti-air, it's not invincible until Ken's a little up in the air. I can show you that now actually as well. If I try and use an anti-air, it looks great now, doesn't it? I think his melee kick's a little too late. Let's try it again. Let's do it there. A little higher up in the jump arc. See, it does lose there. So you have to do it very early, like that. And that's how you want to use it. Cool. So yeah, it's worth noting as well, you do not get juggle after the lighter medium punch version. Well, the medium version of the Shinryuken. That was a full version, wasn't it? Doesn't work, particularly mid-screen. I haven't tested it out too much in the corner, but yeah, mid-screen. It's after the full fat you get the juggle. But remember, a grounded Shinryuken, full fat, you get CA. A juggle into full fat Shinryuken. If it's off a target combo, you definitely get EX Tatsu. If it's in the corner, you can then get... Actually no, I better go over that again. So if it's mid-screen, full fat on the ground, you get CA. If it's mid-screen, target combo into heavy punch DP, full fat, you can get EX Tatsu. If you do Chin Buster, heavy punch DP, cancel into V trigger, then you can get EX DP and heavy punch DP. Yeah, that's right. Cool. So that's the background and the very basic juggles. So in the next section now, I'm going to talk about a very specific property that I've identified with the juggle. This is very important to remember. So guys, with this now, in the earlier section I mentioned about target combo into heavy punch DP, line break into heavy punch DP, and chin bust into heavy punch DP. The juggle is different, and this is really important to remember. It changes things quite a bit for this V trigger. So if you do chin bust heavy punch DP into full fat Shinryuken, look where Ryu lands. Look at the hits. 17 hits. He lands right in front of me. If I do line breaker, okay, 17 hits, fair enough. But see how he's a distance away. The reason that is because it's where the heavy punch DP lands, and if they land closer, you get, I guess, a better Oki setup, which we'll talk about later on, and you get the heavy punch DP and EX DP at close range. See, I went for something there. That works as well. The reason why it doesn't work there is I think because Chin Buster, the juggle before, doesn't allow the Tatsu. If I were to set Crush Counter on now, or count it, so if they DP you block it. If I do this, and if I get the timing right, so I specifically want to look for 1, 2, I think it's 17 hits in this situation. If I see 17 hits in this situation, the juggle will put them closer to me. Hmm. 16. Hang on. Let me get my maths right. 1, 2, and then 14 hits the Shinryuken. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay, my bad, it must be 16 then. So if you get 14 hits of the Shinryuken, after crush counter, crouch and heavy punch DP, and look at the way Ryu gets sucked in as well, the vacuum. There's no delay between. If I do it a little slower, it'll be different. Yeah, that looked exactly the same, but I got 17 hits and it put him a little further out. It's quite an important thing to remember, and it only seems to be the case on heavy punch DP. It's the first hit cancel. Depending on where you hit it, land it, their juggle state is different as they go up and they fall closer to you. That's really important for Oki and for the follow-up. So if you don't want to spend any EX meter and you get a crush counter, you could do that. I think you may get EX Tatsu as well, I'm not sure. See, that was different then. You see how his body was away from me and then got sucked into the vacuum. Let's try again. That's the same again, that didn't work. That should be right, yeah, perfect. And you get EX Tatsu. Now, I would prefer if the juggle was the same every time, but you can manipulate it using heavy punch DP one hit when they're in a juggle state. So that counts with chin buster and it counts with crouching heavy punch, crush counter. It doesn't work, as I mentioned, with other juggles, so I don't think it works with like it Tatsu, heavy punch DP. No. So they land quite far away. So that's a unique situation when it comes to juggles, and I don't think anyone's clocked onto that as of yet. It's good for Oki, of course, as well. That wasn't the one. So let's set him to the wake up 3 frame on quick rise. Might already be there actually. Perfect. Let's try that again. Okay, so crouching heavy punches, crouching medium punch is too slow. So you need something a bit quicker. Okay, so that's something we can look at later. I think stand heavy punch may work. Let's try it. I should look at Oki in another section, but let's have a little look and then we'll look at it in more detail. Nah, it's still too early. It's probably stand heavy kick. Okay, cool, no worries. So that's a very important property to remember with this V trigger. In the next section, we will look at Oki, and then towards the end, we'll look at like practical examples in a match. Okay, guys. So Oki, I've not found anything consistent with Oki. There are some setups going around, so I'm going to test them out in more detail at a later date. But Oki in general, it depends on obviously the juggle height you start the Shinryuken at, which Shinryuken you go for. And you can get more setups in the corner. Corner you left point blank so you can set things up. But mid screen, if you were to do, let's use like a real basic example. Let's try to back rise. If they're quick rise, they're in range. You can see there, you're in range to do something, but did he back quick rise? See there that they are kind of close. It's too slow, so let's try back medium punch, see what happens with that. So you can get that if you delay it a little bit. You see that worked with a little delay, but that's against quick rise. The back rise, they're going to be way out of range for you to do anything. Let's just try this. No, it's too far. If you were to do a normal straight into it, see you're even closer, then you can get 2 hits if they wake up 3 frame and they quick rise. But again, the setup only depends on if they quick rise mid screen. Looks like you're getting nothing off back rise. And as we mentioned earlier on about where you get them spaced closer, so say if you do Chin Buster Heavy Punch DP 1 hit V trigger, full version. You can see there, they're point blank range, so you can go for a meaty. Back rise in that situation where the fall is closer to you. Don't think they're in range then. Yeah, they're out of range. But if you like your tattoo, it may change that. Ooh, that's very ambiguous. You can see that already. So that's interesting. Very interesting. So I think that's a genuine mix-up, that is. And that's why I think the Heavy Punch DP cancel into V-Trigger full fat is a good setup to use. And that's why I mentioned that earlier on, because that's where a lot of my focus will be on if I want to mix them up. Other than that, I just generally use it raw, which we'll talk about towards the end. I think, as I mentioned earlier on, I think the height and the version you use the cancel is very important as to what Oki you get. So if you get the light and medium versions of the Shinryuken, you throw away Oki there. You've got to go for the full fat, particularly off that 1 hit Heavy Punch DP into full fat. That's the best one for Oki. In the corner it's different. You get all sorts in the corner. But I haven't labbed it enough to really talk about it as of yet. So you can see there, he back right. It's a quick rise. And let's not do the full fat version, let's just do the lighter version off of a juggle. You can definitely get Oki there. Oops. You can see there, manually timed, that's fine. So that works, but Oki is a topic I've got to look at in more detail, guys. I'm going to move on to now specific use of the V-Trigger 2, and then we'll look at like real match application. So the way I like to use this V-Trigger is to use it raw mainly. So raw, you get no scaling, you get the vacuum effect as well. It draws the opponent in close enough. That also applies to if you juggle as well. Sometimes it misses, not always, doesn't always work. If I do, oops. See that? I mean, it didn't do much damage. You can see it sucks them in. But this is unsafe. You can't just buffer buttons and do that, because if they're blocking, if they're blocking, Ken is very unsafe, very unsafe. He cannot be crush countered, but he can be hit with a jumping neutral jump attack. So Ken can punish it himself by doing. That's a very generic, very basic punish for Shinryuken if you block it. So remember that if you're in the Ken mirror, and then the opponent's using V-Trigger 2. So you cannot buffer it, you need to confirm into it. So as a raw whiff punch, it's great. As a cancel, it's good. That's pretty good. You can confirm that as well on hit. And as an anti-air, we mentioned earlier on, I do like to use it as an anti-air. So what I do is when I want to anti-air, I tend to either use it early on. So if they jump at me, we'll use the recorded setting. So if they jump at me, and I know I've got V-Trigger ready, I can do that early. Yeah, it doesn't do crazy damage, but it can be used to snipe out of the air. Even if they jump over you. It's very useful like that. People are very sloppy with their jumping around and their movement. You can take them out the sky very well. Good example, Akuma's Demon Flip. Akuma's Demon Flip has mix-ups depending on what he does in the air. He can go over your head and all sorts, but Shinryuken shuts that down because covers the many options Akuma has in the air. If he does dive kick after EX Demon or Demon in general, and he stops in the air, Shinryuken, if you're close enough, will draw him in regardless. So it doesn't matter what he does in the air. You can shut those options down, and that's the reason why I think this V-Trigger is good. Some matchups, this is going to be better than V-Trigger 1. Akuma, for example, is one of those. Kami is one of those. Rashid is good as well because he has a lot of movement in the air, but you want burst damage, I think, against Rashid, and I think V-Trigger 1 gives you that. Another example, maybe Birdie and his Dolphin dives, it will shut that down. Any shenanigans in the air. Oh, Nash as well. Nash's moonsaults. This is great against Nash's moonsaults. Can't get my words out. Nash's moonsaults. So I think that's where you got to use this, guys. And I think that's where people are forgetting about this V-Trigger. So raw forward movement. I should mention actually Ryu. I'd go V-Trigger 1 because he doesn't have many moves that throw him forward. It's only really air Tatsu. Raw as a reaction to any forward movement, any jumping attacks, any launching forward attacks. As a cancel, so let me show you one example, guys. I'm going to go full fat into CA. Look at the damage. Five or six. Five or six. You ready? Now I'm going to scale the crap out of this combo. Is that first hit? Okay, let's try again. Look how much scaling hurts the attack at the end, the CA. CA only did 50% of its normal damage. It actually did, if I get this right, it did 65 damage in it previously. In that combo just then, it did 65 damage. CA normally does 330, I think. That doesn't make sense. Does it 50%? Oh, no, that was the last attack. Okay, cool. So we did 50%. It should have done 100, just over 150 damage, 165 damage. That's not very good, man, at all. So that's why I'm saying you don't want to use it as a combo ender. It's good initially as a cancel. So a one hit attack. This is, although stand heavy kick into V-Trigger is very good. That's nice, that is. That's very useful. You can't get a combo off of that any other way. I mean, with V-Trigger 1, it has to be a cancel. And then you do your crouching heavy punch, whatever afterwards. But it's nice that, and then you're in V-Trigger and you got it stocked. So plan the way you want to use it in a matchup. The way I would use it in a matchup, so Ryu's health isn't going to deplete now. So let's just say I've taken about 40% damage, 30% damage, and my gauge is full now. He whiffs a move, 140 damage. Now I can use it again now for more damage. If I'm lucky enough, I can use it again. Now one stock has got me relatively 50% damage on the opponent. Now the match is still going to go on. I'm probably going to get V-Trigger again. If that happens, let's just say Ryu takes a bit more damage. Now if I go for a full fat, so look at the damage. Sorry, look at his health now, and I go for another raw one because he whiffed something. I could have heavy punch DP then before the cancel, or medium punch DP. He's dead. The key to V-Trigger 2 is meter management. You've got to think about it. Now the way I use it early on, if I get it early, I will look at it as another tool in my arsenal. If they make one mistake, I'll activate. I'm in V-Trigger. And now I'm ready. I've got two more, well, potentially two, let's call it one more go, attacking them with a very quick reactionary attack. You know, I don't have to input the DP motion, I don't have to focus on footsies and worry about the air attack. That's where this is really good. If you're focused on footsies and you're in V-Trigger 2, your anti-air game is, as long as you're quick, it's on fire. You can focus on the ground game. As soon as they jump, take it back to sky. It's another tool. Don't look at it as a combo extender. Don't look at it as like a improve your damage off an attack and a combo. Look at it as another tool in Ken's arsenal, and that's why it's good. I know I'm harping on about this, but that's the way to look at it. Don't focus on the damage. Don't focus on the scaling. Don't focus on the fact that all the V-triggers are better. That's how this tool should be looked at. It's a tool. The attack is a tool. It's something that Ken has additionally to everything else. If you want to do mad combos, cancel into full fat and then CA, do it, but you're wasting your meter. And that's probably another reason why it's good to hold on to your CA and not spend all your meter during match. You actually use Ken in a different way when using V-Trigger 2, I think. So try it out, see what you think. I mean, it may not work, but the specific matchup, especially like I said, Akuma and Kami, because they have low health, that's why it works so well as well. If you get 2 stocks per match, you're going to end up destroying them towards the end. So you're going to shut down a lot of their crap. Akuma's air fireballs, this will shut it down. As soon as he jumps in the air, well, I haven't got a practical example now. I'll show an example at the end of this video, but as soon as he jumps, that will destroy his air fireballs. It's really good, guys, so don't sleep on this V-Trigger. What was the last... Okay, the last section I wanted to cover. So we've covered pretty much scaling there and application. We can do it now actually. Let's go into... we'll go into character select and I'll go against a character that I think the V-Trigger is good against. We'll just do it in the lab and I'll show you some examples of how it's good. Okay guys, so this is the last section of the video. I'm going to use the CPU to show what I mentioned in practice in an actual match. So I'll try and build 2 stocks for each round that I fight. It should hopefully be just 1 round anyway, and I'll use V-Trigger in the same way that I mentioned. We'll use the light and medium versions initially with my first stock, and the last stock I'll look at using full whack. I'll try and finish him off with either a full Shinryuken or Shinryuken full fat into CA. The main focus here is me shutting down Akuma's options using the V-Trigger 2. So let's hope that I do this in the first few sort of rounds rather than stringing this out. Focus on getting V meter. So cancelling any target combos is what you want to do. Obviously damage is a good thing because it builds up V meter as well. Let's take a bit of damage. Let's try and build the meter up. Okay, I've got it filled now. Right, I don't want to die. So I could have cancelled there. Really, I should have cancelled there. That would have finished him off. Let's try and shut down an option. There you go. He didn't die. I couldn't juggle there, but not the best example. But you can see what I mean, can't you? Let's try it one more time. Did do step kick there, but it didn't come out. This is good. We've got meter now. Let's try and use the lesser versions. Ooh, unlucky. Great way to use it for abusing fireballs. See, there you can see. I'll just slow it down for a minute there. The way I was using it at the beginning and the very end there, I was too slow in terms of reacting and it didn't work. I got attacked. So the Akuma hop, the chop, isn't a good place to use it. His air attack, I think as I went up, I must have just caught the tip of his dive kick. If I was a little earlier, that wouldn't have worked. But that's how I see the V-Trigger working. We'll try it one more time, and that should close it out for the video. And I'll also put an example match where I use the Shinryuken against an Akuma, and in the same fashion, I use it in that way, and it worked fine. It worked really good, especially to shut down those air fireballs. Let's try it one more time. I did do step kick then as well. You do have to abuse step kick. There would have been a good time to cancel. That was perfect. That's exactly one. That's 1, 2. I've run out of gauge now. So So if I get one more now, he's definitely dead. I'll see if I can take a bit of damage. Let's try and build some. Ah, he's gonna die, isn't he? So I've got to block a few attacks to build some more. There you go. That's exactly how you want to use V-Trigger 2. I'm glad that worked out well. So guys, hopefully that helped. I shall leave you with a little example. Any questions, give me a shout. Catch you later on. Take care.
So it's you. Round 1. Fight!